What's going on, everybody? So welcome back to another episode of the A24 Archive. This is a series on my channel where I watch films from the beginning of A24's catalog all the way to the most current film that they've put out, and I'm making my way along, and it's been really great to watch a lot of these films in A24's catalog that I've never seen before. And I'm actually really excited to talk about today's episode because I feel like I don't get to spend a lot of time discussing documentaries on my channel, and I know that that's not the first thing that people typically come to want to watch a movie review for, but I do love documentaries, and there's such like a passion, immense love for a certain subject matter, for someone to dive in completely to talk about a very specific subject matter. And today's film is going to be discussing the life of Amy Winehouse, and the film is called Amy. Amy is directed by Asif Kapadia, a documentary on the life of Amy Winehouse, the immensely talented yet doomed songstress. We see her from her teen years, where she already showed her singing abilities, to her finding success and then her downward spiral into alcoholism and drugs. So I will say, prior to this documentary, I was not very familiar with Amy Winehouse's music, and I really wasn't familiar with Amy Winehouse in our culture and how she impacted our culture. And this film actually gave me a really fond appreciation for her music, and since I've watched it, I've been visiting her discography a lot and listening to her music, and she was such an incredibly talented human being who really was taken too early from us. And what this documentary explores is just kind of the evils of not only the music industry, but like fame in general and what it can do to a person. So the film starts off showing you Amy's talent at a very young age. I think some of the first videos you're shown, you see videos of her in her childhood, but like her in her early 20s. And I think that's where record producers started coming to talk to her, was around 21, 22 years old, according to the documentary. Early on, it was just, to her, it was all about making the music she wanted. When she released her first record, Frank, a lot of people were asking her, like, are you going to move in a different direction, or are you going to try to take it another way? Because it was very traditional in the sense of like jazz and music from that time period. And she said, I was raised on people like Tony Bennett, and this is the kind of music I love, and this is the music that I'm going to continue to play. And she's very uncompromising in that regard. And it was interesting to see her family's reaction to that, because you could tell like her relationship with her mother was really strong. Her dad does not seem to be the most wonderful individual by any means. He seemed like he was much more with like a, she's committed to this stardom, she needs to keep doing this, to where later on in her life, when the drugs and alcohol really started to take over, that they weren't supportive of her getting healthy. It was much more about her just staying on the track and the career trajectory because of how quickly she blew up. And I think what's interesting about this whole thing is, like, you look at someone that's that young, at 21, 22, her first album came out in her early 20s, and just reaching that peak level of success, because you see a lot of musicians who have like moderate to mid-grade success. They play really solid concert venues for 600 and 700 people. They're able to make a living off of it. Well, Amy Winehouse is someone who put out music, and she blew up to instant stardom to where she could sell out arenas, and she was just so incredibly talented, and people were immediately enamored with her, and they all wanted more. And the film looks at this relationship that Amy gets into with this guy who, he is very, from the outside looking in, very manipulative, and he is the one who kind of gets Amy to dip her toe into doing heroin and cocaine and really overdoing it on the alcohol. And she kind of saw him as the pinnacle of her life and really put him on a pedestal, to where when things started to spiral out of control, he didn't do a very good job of helping her come off of it, because he was doing it himself. He ended up doing jail time and all this crazy stuff. And it really just shows you that like the fame can get to your head. There's this really beautiful and haunting quote. I can't remember who it is that they were interviewing, but Amy said something along the lines of, if I could ask for it to be all taken back, the talent and all of it, I would, just so that I could walk down the street like a normal person again. And it really, like, the scenes in this where it shows the paparazzi, the snap of like the camera shutter and how loud that is when you see the flashes, it just really goes to show you that like you can't even leave your house without being completely bombarded and swarmed by these people who want to know every individual aspect of your life. And Amy was someone seemingly from this documentary who just wanted to be to herself. She enjoyed making music and getting it out there into the public, but she wanted to make what she wanted to make. There's a lot of discussion in this about the pressure from the record label for her to put out new music, because she really only ever released 2 full albums in her time that she was alive. And Back to Black obviously was the huge one that it won all those Grammys. It was incredibly successful. And when after Back to Black came out, the record label really was pressuring her to put out more music, and she was trying to build something that she wanted to release. And it was like, when you get in with those big record labels, I've heard stories of independent bands I love who have signed to larger labels who are like, hey, when we were with this smaller record label, they'd give us like $10,000 to $20,000 and said, take a month, make an album. And then you go to a huge record label like Universal or something, and they say, here's $2 million, we want a record in a week and a half. And it's really like the pressure and the mental stress that puts on a musician. And it was really upsetting to watch, especially when Amy started to dive heavily into drugs even further towards the end of her career, when she was trying to play shows and she was so strung out that she could barely sling together the lyrics. And one of the last videos they showed was one of her concerts that she was supposed to play that was going to be like a, hey, welcome back into the industry, we're excited for you to be back and doing what you love. And just seeing her kind of stagger all over the stage, not even really be able to sing, it was really heartbreaking. And to see someone go through that amount of trauma because of drugs and no support from their family, it was really hard. But there was also a lot of beautiful moments where, like the scene where it shows that she got to do a duet with Tony Bennett and how much Tony Bennett meant to her. Every time she'd sing, she'd be like, I'm wasting your time, like this isn't great. And Tony being like, oh, you're doing wonderful, you're amazing. And then they interviewed him at the end, and he said, if I had the ability to tell her, I would tell her that she's one of the most talented vocal performers of our generation and of our time. And I just thought that was really beautiful. And this movie moved me to tears multiple times, because it was just so hard to see someone so immensely talented with a passion for the music and who cared so deeply about what this music meant to them being taken so early because of just, you know, not having the right people in her life that cared. And it really moved me. This is such an amazing documentary and one of the best films in A24's catalog. I think even if you don't know anything about Amy Winehouse's music, just go in and watch this. It is absolutely incredible and you will not regret it. So have you seen Amy? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Leave me a comment down below and let me know what you thought. I thought this movie was beautiful. It was sad. It was depressing. It was just one of the best documentaries I've ever seen. As always, if you can like the video and subscribe to the channel, it helps me out a lot and lets me know the type of content you're looking for. I'm always putting out new material and look forward to getting more out for you in the near future. And as always, everyone, thank you so much for watching and have a great rest of your day.